Hello, everybody. It is Thursday in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My name is Adam Bittner, Assistant Sports Editor for Multimedia at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joined for our weekly chat by Jason Mackey, our Post-Gazette sports columnist. After a week off, Jason, you were in Bradenton getting the scoop on everything down there, so we took last week off amid all the free agency frenzy, but glad to be back in the saddle with you.
Yeah, same, man. Fun trip to Bradenton. Learned a lot. Love going down there. I appreciate being able to spend a week in Bradenton. Got to see Andrew and Noah. They're doing a great job with coverage, and I got to take my lap around there, and I'm ready for the season to start. I'll tell you that much.
We are going to be talking Najee Harris. He's continuing to make comments about the Steelers' leadership, how he felt he didn't have anyone to look to after he kind of took a little bit of a shot at the facilities last week, some of the comments late in the season. We're going to dive into, what Najee Harris said. Are we surprised by the level of bitterness? Is what he's saying right? Is what he's saying wrong? Obviously, we have to touch on the quarterback situation with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, all of that. So we're going to dig into that. In the later segments, we're going to do some March Madness conversation, get into a little bit of Penguins, and then in the third segment, talk about the Jared Jones injury for the Pirates and how that impacts them with just a little bit more than a week to go until the regular season starts. So a lot to get to. Before we do, just want to thank a sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Edgar Snyder and Associates. Law firms come and go, but what law firm has been here in Western Pennsylvania fighting for injury victims for more than 40 years? It's Edgar Snyder and Associates. What firm has a staff of over 130 people who live and work here? It's Edgar Snyder and Associates. Law firms come and go, but Edgar Snyder and Associates is a name you can always trust. So remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. If you've been hurt in an accident, call them at 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit www.edgarsnyder.com. They're available 24/7. Okay, Jason, let's dig into these Najee Harris comments. He made kind of those oblique references to the Steelers not having great facilities last week and praising the Los Angeles Chargers facilities and saying it's not like this everywhere. He's only been one other place, so you can only really interpret that as something of a shot at the Steelers. We know the Steelers have suffered in the NFL PA rankings for facilities, so it's not like it came out of left field there. Now he's talking about the culture in Pittsburgh, and he had done this late in the season, Jason, when he mentioned that he thought too many guys were paying attention to media and outside noise. Now he's saying he didn't really feel like he had anyone to look to here, that there wasn't a lot of leadership on offense in his 4 years with the young quarterback and the young running back. Are you surprised that this is like the third time to the well for him, in my opinion? Are you surprised at the level of bitterness from him about how things ended? Or is that just natural when you decline a guy's 50-year option and you let him walk in free agency?
I'm not the least bit surprised, Adam. And not what Najee is saying is not wrong. I don't blame him for feeling that way. Is it the best look to go to the well 3 times, as you said? Probably not. But I don't begrudge a guy for saying what he feels. I think, part of it, declining the 5th-year option, I don't think it ended well. If I'm Najee Harris, I'm looking at the Steelers situation and thinking they did not get the most out of me. And I worry about this with Najee Harris. I think he's going to go to the Chargers. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's tailor-made for that offense. I think his running style, for whatever reason, the Steelers were not able to take advantage of that. And if I'm Najee Harris, I understand where he's coming from, feeling upset, feeling probably like he gave everything that he had to give to the Steelers. And if I'm a Steelers fan, I can't even look at Najee Harris and be that mad. I mean, the dude played every single game. He was available for work. He ran incredibly hard. Like, that they couldn't mesh what they were doing offensively with his skill set, to me, is on them. Do I need Najee Harris to tell me that the Steelers are kind of behind the curve with facilities and that sort of stuff? No. And I find that frustrating that those aren't better. I mean, you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, for crying out loud. Like, why should we be talking about your facilities getting poor grades on an NFLPA ranking? Like, you should be setting the standard. And that's probably a separate discussion, Adam. It's something I thought about a lot with them. I mean, the sharing a facility with Pitt, I don't like it. I think it's a matter of time before they separate. Give Pitt the South Side. Go to Cranberry. Go somewhere. Like, there's a way to improve this. The Steelers shouldn't be getting dunked on in facilities or infrastructure things. For as proud of a franchise as this is, I just, and I understand where Najee's coming from again. I just wish the ammunition wasn't there.
I'm going to dodge is a new facility going to be tied to a new stadium conversation for now.
That's a whole separate podcast.
Yeah. So, but it's going to become a question here as these leases are coming due. Jason, let's dig into the football aspect a little bit. When he's saying he felt he didn't have enough guys to look to, conceivably after Ben left. Was that a team building mistake in hindsight that they made this offense so young and so reliant on these young guys kind of figuring it out together rather than mixing some young guys in with some veterans and having some continuity there?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I liken what happened with the Steelers offensively, what you hear Najee Harris talking about, to what we've seen with the Pirates, and not having any veteran players and not having a culture that trickles down, that there's this expected way of doing things. The Penguins have been our most successful team of late. I wonder why. I mean, think about the culture that they have established, where it starts. I mean, you might not love everything about what they're doing right now, but you can't really question the type of players Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, or Chris Letang are, what their legacies stand for. And at the very top, there's not a lot of shuffling. And so I understand where Najee's coming from. He's not wrong. They shouldn't have spent as much money on defense. I still don't think they should be spending as much money on defense. I would like to see them spend some money offensively. I mean, they're changing that now with DK Metcalf, certainly, but we're talking about Najee's first couple of years with the Steelers. Yeah, I do think it was a team-building mistake. You should have had a veteran there, even if it's not Kenny Pickett, somebody with some miles on the tires, so Najee Harris and others had places to go. Like, I can't imagine he's the only young guy on that offense that feels the way he feels. Like, he couldn't go to anybody on the offensive side of the ball. And Adam, you know this as much as I do. Football's such a different game. It's not like you're all infielders on a baseball diamond. It's not like you're sharing a line in hockey. A young defensive back can't really relate to a young offensive lineman. A young running back can't really relate to a young defensive line. They're just different positions. And I wish the Steelers would have spent differently and had some veterans around for Najee Harris and others to go to.
How much do you think this is a core part of the problem, Jason, between the facilities and the cultural stuff, this off-field stuff that we spend a lot of time talking about, but at the end of the day, is it still just a talent problem that the Steelers haven't won a playoff game in 8 years? Is it a tactical problem? Are those things still more important? And are these things at the margins, or do you think that they're a central tenet in this issue?
I mean, I have a tough time separating it, Adam. I don't think it's one thing. I don't think it's a lack of talent, although that's certainly a part of it. I don't think it's schematics, although that's certainly a part of it. I don't know if it's exclusively culture. I think some of it is stubbornness. I think some of it is the Steelers being behind the times and not being willing or able to realize how to get with the rest of the NFL. I mean, you can take that a number of different ways. Size of coaching staff, execution of key situations, and who is advising Mike Tomlin and why they're so stubborn against this sort of stuff. I mean, you have a chance to hire an offensive coordinator and your swing produces Arthur Smith. You have an offseason to talk about getting the quarterback position right, and that's so important. And we're sitting here, I know for other parts of this podcast, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, a 41-year-old, maybe picking the Steelers. There are so many contributing factors there. Have they been talented enough to win over the past handful of years? Yeah, I think they have. I mean, George Pickens pretty talented. Najee Harris is pretty darn talented too. Has they gotten the most out of that talent? I think that's what they could be criticized for more than anything.
Does any of this ring a little hollow to you that the LA Chargers are the team that we're talking about? Because they've been in arguably a worse morass than the Steelers. They've got one playoff win. More recently, the Steelers was back in 2018. They beat the Ravens to get to the divisional round, but otherwise, pretty much nothing to show for it. They've had several losing seasons in that span. Is this also part of what makes this conversation with the Steelers so complicated? Is you have a player go to a place like the LA Chargers and praise what they're doing, but then you look at the results the Steelers have gotten and you say they're substantially better than what the Chargers have done.
But what do you mean ring hollow, Adam? Like is it depressing that he's going to the Chargers and the Chargers look better than the Steelers?
I just think it's a little bit, you're going to a franchise that's been less successful for a period of time, and you're praising it as like this big departure from what the Steelers have done in a positive way. And I guess I don't see that.
But you don't see it?
No, I mean, not as of yet. Well, and maybe that's part of the problem is that they're in the division with the Chiefs, and that's a big impediment to them. But still,
But Adam, think about it this way: which defense would you rather have, Chargers or the Steelers?
I'd still rather have the Steelers.
I probably would too, but it's close. I mean, it's not like the Chargers. Which quarterback situation would you rather have?
I'd love to have Justin Herbert, but I still think he has a lot to show.
Okay. So you're just naturally down on the Chargers, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Chargers is a bad situation. I like Harbaugh. I like what he's done rebuilding a bunch of teams. I think they took a lot of positive steps last season. I mean, I'm not saying the Chargers are going to win the Super Bowl, but I'm not, embarrassed that like Najee Harris is going to the Browns and saying how great it is in Cleveland. Like I don't take it that way. I mean, they have a great facility. The Steelers facility should be better than it is. That's not just me saying it. That's the NFLPA survey. That I get where Najee's coming from. Do I think it's sour grapes? Do I think he has an axe to grind? Sure. But I don't think he's altogether wrong either.
Let's get into this quarterback situation, Jason. We try to talk about something else at the top, but we also have to get to the topic, unfortunately, as it continues to drag on. Why are the Steelers so invested in Aaron Rodgers, hinging their offseason on him when he's pretty clearly at this point not that into them? Can you make a marriage work where the relationship is so one-sided in terms of who has the power in the situation?
If he plays well, I guess. I don't understand this, Adam. And I know I'm not the first person to say it, but why are you waiting around for the honor of paying a mediocre 41-year-old quarterback $40 million? There has to be a piece of information here we're missing. Like if you're waiting around and Aaron Rodgers maybe wants to play one more year and your offers for like 15 or something and you think that's the move, I guess I get that. That would just buck all current reporting on this situation. So that's what I mean about a piece of information that we must just not know, because based on what we do know, it makes zero sense to me. I was wondering this yesterday. Does Aaron Rodgers make the Steelers any discernibly better than like a 8, 9, 10 win team? I don't think so. I'm not sure Mason Rudolph does that. You could sign a guy for $5 million. I threw Jameis Winston out there last week. It was just a convenient name. But I mean, you could sign a mediocre quarterback, figure out who the best of those two is, shuffle them back and forth, and you're probably going to land at 9-8 or 10-7. Why am I going to spend $40 million on Aaron Rodgers to do it? So yeah, I don't see how you make a marriage work when it seems like one side wants the other a lot more. I mean, everything we're reading about the Aaron Rodgers situation from his perspective is that he wanted Minnesota and that he could still hold out for a winning team that needs a quarterback. Man, it's on the Steelers too, getting dragged on with this stuff. I don't like it. I would set a deadline. I wish they would just call it and say, Aaron, if you want to come here, the deadline is tomorrow by 4:00. Let's go. You're either in or you're out. But they're allowing him to do this, and I hate it.
Yeah, it's part of the story at this point to me now, Jason, that it's taken this long. If he'd signed on the dotted lines last Monday or Tuesday and said, I'm in, would I have loved that move even then? Probably not, but I like it less now than I did a week ago because he's exerting some influence over the situation. Hey, maybe it's just a matter of this guy is trying to salvage some pride and make it look like, I'm one of the best quarterbacks of all time and I'm not just going hat in hand to the Steelers because they're going to hand me a contract. I think there's probably some ego involved in the situation, but if you're the Steelers, you're not supposed to deal with that crap. Right. The other half of this equation is that this could have been solved a long time ago if they just moved forward with the guy who was their quarterback last season with Russell Wilson. What does it say about that relationship that they're willing to tolerate this from? Like, how big is the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson? Really, that they're willing to tolerate what Aaron Rodgers is doing to not have to go back to the Russell Wilson wall? Because look, I think you can make a great argument, and I have, that you saw it not work in a pretty big way down the stretch last season with Russ. But I also did not see a quarterback that I thought was so bad that you can't imagine changing a few things and it working a little bit better than it did. You brought in DK Metcalf, who's a guy he's worked with before. I think his game meshes with the weapons that they have. Does that mean I'm going to predict the Super Bowl? No, but I can't really imagine that there's that much separation that Russ is so bad compared to Aaron Rodgers.
I know.
It feels personal. It feels personal.
And it might be. That report that Jerry had to have, right? Like the fact that comes out, and I'm not speaking for Jerry's reporting, but I mean, that couldn't have sat well inside the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. I mean, that has to be it, right? You have to look at that and say that Russ's people brought this up. I can't imagine what the Steelers would have, what their motivation would be to have that out there. No, it might, I'm sure it was confirmed from all sides. Like I'm not talking about the actual reporting. I'm talking about the storyline that exists. Like man, oh man, that had to just rankle some feathers, because remember at the end of the season, Adam, Art Rooney II's talking about wanting one or the other back. Well, you can sign Russell Wilson right now. He's available. He's out there. So yeah, I do think it's personal, whether that's a relationship with Arthur Smith, whether it's the report that came out, I have no idea, but you have the opportunity to sign Russell Wilson. And I agree with you. I don't think one is that much better or worse than the other. Everything we're looking at here is probably 9-8 and 10-7. I would just end the drama and go back to Russell Wilson and call it a day. But if he wants $30 million, if his contract asks are exorbitant, which they might be, then it takes us back to the scenario that we just outlined. It would be better off with Jameis, Mason, Joe Flacco, whatever, and just save the money.
Wow, Russ at 30 or Aaron Rodgers at 40, I think just goes back to the same conversation. Like, I'd rather pay Russ 30 and
I don't want neither. Why would you really pay Russ 30?
If it was 1 year, I would do it. Yes,
I wouldn't.
I think he's the best. I think he is the best objective option available. And if you can get him for $10 million less than the guy you've been chasing for 2 weeks, I would do it. But that's just me.
Yeah, I just don't think he makes them that much better than anything else that's available.
Well, and here's the thing: there's not a lot of places you can spend money left, Jason. So that's why I would give Russ whatever he wants for that reason. Because who else are you spending it on? All the other possible targets are gone.
Yeah, I know. Make a trade for a receiver, something.
Do another one. Yeah.
There's got to be something, man. There has to be a way to spend money. The store is not closed.
It's not closed, but they're making the announcement on the loudspeaker to get out. You know what I mean? That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
Jason, we're going to get into some hoops now. Disappointing season for Pitt, Penn State, West Virginia. Who are we most down on? Who are we most optimistic about moving forward? We're going to get into that. Talk a little bit about the Penguins, what they have left to play for the rest of the season. Before we do, just want to thank a couple more sponsors. Pittsburgh, are you ready to train like a champion? UFC Gym has everything for total body health under one roof. They have group classes for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Zumba, personal training, cardio and weights, cryotherapy, infrared saunas, and more, all at an unbeatable price. Not sure where to begin? All members get a starter session with an expert coach to help map out your fitness plan. Your first visit is on us. Drop in with free parking at Market Square or the waterfront, and follow UFC Gym on social media. Train different, feel unstoppable at UFC Gym. And now here's a message from our friend in Bradenton, Florida.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
We are back on our weekly chat. I am Adam Bittner, Post-Gazette multimedia editor. Jason Mackey's our sports columnist. Jason, we're talking hoops. Pitt, Penn State, West Virginia all missed the NCAA tournament. We'll be watching Robert Morris. St. Francis lost, but they have been in this tournament as well. So all of our mid-majors, were interesting this season. But the high majors fell short. Pitt and Penn State both started really well, faltered badly down the stretch. West Virginia was the first team out, loses their coach. Kind of bleak. Who are you most optimistic about from that group of three? And who are you most pessimistic about?
Man, I'm probably going to take some flack for this, but I'm most optimistic about Pitt, which feels like, again, probably an insane thing to say based on how they finished the season. And maybe it's because I watched them most closely of the three teams. I do think the talent is there. I think Jeff Capel's a pretty darn good basketball coach. I'm a little confused why it went the way it went, but I don't think they're that far off. The West Virginia situation worries me. Darren DeVries just up and moving. I do think they're going to be able to replace him, but I just can't be that down on Pitt right now, Adam, despite the way they finished the season. There's still a lot of talent in that program. It's a matter of putting it together, and I'm going to have to trust a pretty good basketball coach to do it. I guess I'm most pessimistic on Penn State. I'm sorry to say.
I think I'm most optimistic about West Virginia because I think they've demonstrated a higher ceiling or a higher floor than the other two these last handful of years. Obviously, Pitt and Penn State both made those runs to the round of 32 a few years back, but I feel like West Virginia's been the most consistently, in the mix in a serious way, and a solid team. And it's not like they lost their coach to anybody. They lose their coach
True.
to Indiana. So I'd probably say I'm most optimistic about West Virginia, and I'd go most pessimistic about Pitt because I don't see the evidence that Jeff Capel is a particularly good coach. Do I think he's a bad coach? No, but he's had how many bites at this apple now to get into one NCAA tournament? You had a team with pieces to do something this season, and you falter as badly as you did. I think the difference between the Pitt and the Penn State situations for me is at least Penn State is only wrapping up year 2 under Mike Rhodes. I think it's disappointing that you didn't see the trajectory you did under Micah Shrewsbury, where you took that year 1 to year 2 leap, make the NCAA tournament, make the Big Ten championship game. I think that's disappointing for Penn State, but I think you can still come up with more excuses for Mike Rhodes than you can for Jeff Capel.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I'm not propping up Jeff Capel in the Pitt situation as ideal, like everything's great, but he sent a couple players to the league. He inherited a total mess, got them to the tournament. He's got some pretty decent wins over the past handful of years. For a while, they were, ranked, highly thought of in the ACC. Like, the end of the season was not what we were thinking of Pitt basketball in the middle of it. And it fell off a cliff. There's something in the water in Oakland this season, man. I don't totally understand, but I guess that's why I'm saying that I don't think it's that bad, because I do think they can recalibrate. They're not going to theoretically, they're not going to get cleaned out roster wise. They should have some guys back. I understand where you're coming from though. And the West Virginia point's completely valid.
Yeah. So I think there's good reasons to argue for all three of them. So I think this was a healthy debate, but reality is all three didn't make it and all three aren't good enough. So going to have to be some changes made in the offseason. Jason, at least did West Virginia skip out on the postseason? I don't know that they did, but I know Pitt and Penn State did not. I said this the other day on Twitter. I'm like, are we really going to I get that the landscape is shifting with the recruiting. The portal opens on March 24th while these tournaments are ostensibly ongoing. Building for next season is something you start doing as soon as the regular season is over. And so this is 2 years in a row. Pitt said no. Penn State now saying no, even though the NIT is what propped up their program for a good decade there, when I think they won in 2009 and then again in 2018. And that was about all Penn State fans had to hang their hat on.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time believing, Jason, that we're going to be sitting here a year from now saying, oh man, skipping the NIT, not playing basketball games, that's what got them into the NCAA tournament. It just seems like such a marginal thing, and I don't understand basketball teams not wanting to play basketball games.
I don't either, man. And West Virginia did decline the postseason tournament thing. I know I'm not equating my experience to theirs, but like I know high school football, we didn't make the playoffs the ninth week of the season. And we never got to play another game. And we didn't realize this was going to be it. Our athletic director never scheduled a 10th week, like an exhibition game. I'm 41 years old, dude. That still eats at me. The opportunity to play one, I'm like, we lost one game. And so I see these teams declining an opportunity to play in a postseason tournament. And I'm not in their locker room. It's not for me to say. Who knows what's going on behind closed doors? I'm no expert. I just don't understand, man. You got the opportunity to play. I think you should play. I think there are too many. That's a separate discussion. I don't understand why there are like 18 postseason tournaments that aren't the NCAA tournament. But if you've got one, if you've got an NIT, some teams that want to play a little bit more basketball, I would never decline that if I was a player. I would be all in to keep playing. I don't care what the circumstances were.
Yeah, and if you win these tournaments, it is a vibe shift for the program. I think people talk about them not mattering in the big picture sense, but for Penn State, when they won that 2009 NIT, it was the springboard for that team that ended up making the NCAA tournament in 2011. Pitt, I think, was able to kind of maintain people's interest with that CBI run that one year when they had that 3-game championship series with Washington
State. You learn things
State
about yourself.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. When's the last time you ever heard a team talk about, man, I just really wish we wouldn't have played in that tournament? I guess, I don't know. They're never in a position to be asked that question, but I just don't see the downside. That's what you're saying. I don't see the downside of playing together a little bit more.
Well, and this is a very micro, but I don't know if you played diocesan basketball back in the day, Jason, but the Nativity tournament was always, it came after the diocesan playoffs, and every year you'd go to Nativity, and it really didn't matter, but you were able to play a little freer because you knew the game, you were just there to play. And down in Nativity Church in Broughton, those are some of my best memories from playing, and those games meant nothing, on a realistic, it was just a chance to keep playing. And I think that's what we're talking about here. And I get it. Some of these guys aren't going to be around. Maybe they want to start moving on with their careers. But, at the end of the day, if you got 5 guys, you can go play basketball. Right. Jason, quickly, any tournament picks you're excited about for March Madness this year?
Robert Morris to go all the way. No, I can't say I'm any more excited about one tournament pick than the other. I mean, I'm excited to watch it play out. I know that. I know that this is absolutely one of the best sports days of the year, one of the best sports periods of the year. But I don't know. I can't say I'm any more excited for Auburn or Duke or Florida or Michigan State or whomever it is. I did the Post-Gazette bracket. I do one with my family. Maybe I should have flipped these. My Post-Gazette bracket was like the chaos bracket, and my family bracket was what I thought was going to logically happen. But I usually do 2. I'll do one in our house and then one with work. And one is logical and one is not.
Jason, quickly on the Penguins as well. I think a lot of people were trying to talk themselves into them contending for a playoff spot this week with their 4-game winning streak coming out of the NHL trade deadline. Then they kind of have that dud against the Islanders earlier in the week. What's the goal for you for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it would be funny. I thought it would be a fascinating storyline, Tristan Jarry's redemption tour. And selfishly, I'm rooting for my own content. I wrote before the season that Tristan Jarry was going to be, have such an impactful role on the team or whatever it is. And hey, they got into a playoff spot and he finished it off with this hot stretch down, at the end. I could say that I was right. But my goal for the rest of the year, Adam, is to have guys play well enough to maybe up trade value and set Kyle Dubas up for what I think should be and could be a busy offseason. And what I mean in realistic terms, Ryan Graves has actually played halfway decent. He's on a third pair. They're not asking a lot of him, but if he could play well enough that he's maybe a trade option, you can tack on an asset or 2 with him this offseason. That helps them a lot. Erik Karlsson's been pretty good, although I don't know what he was doing on the third goal the Islanders scored on Tuesday night. I wrote in my story, it looked like he went to center ice and took a knee, victory formation. But otherwise, Karlsson's been pretty good. So anyway, I'm looking at Jarry, Karlsson, Graves. I don't care about team success. It's almost better if they lose at this point. But if they can have some individual success, these guys play well enough to up their trade value or give themselves some trade value in the offseason. I think that really helps Kyle Dubas. I don't think this has to be, I've said this with you before, Adam, I don't think this has to be a 3-year plan. I think they can do it quickly. They're going to free up some money. The cap's going up. A couple smart, shrewd moves this summer. The Penguins could be back in business in the fall.
Yeah, I don't know. I think building a cup contender this summer is probably a lot to ask, but I think a lot of people would just be glad to see one more run, with this core of guys and have some excitement going into the spring that we haven't, had in some time now. Jason, we are going to get into the Pirates now. That segment, if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to move over to our Post-Gazette Pirates YouTube channel. If you're on audio, stay right here. It's all going to be one podcast. We're going to be talking about Jared Jones, though, his injury, the latest that we know, the implications of it. So join us over there on the other side, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.